You're listening to M.T.V.B. Podcast. Movies, TV, video and board games. This show may contain swearing.
Welcome to a brand new episode and season of the M.T.V.B. podcast, the podcast that talks about my four favourite subjects. That's movies,
television,
video games,
and board games. I'm your host, Anthony, as well as most people know me as the Antman, and welcome to M.T.V.B. on YouTube, everyone. Hey! And of course, season 9. It's our favourite time of the month. It's Spooktacular season. This season, or this month, should I say, we're going to be talking about our favourite horror movies from those decades that we love. We're going to start with the 70s tonight, and I'm joined around the table by the guys that love to talk about 70s horror movies. Introduce yourselves around that table, please. First off, we have...
I carved up with a hat on. JK47 or Father Merrin from The Exorcist.
Hey!
And I am H, the man with two lists, normally.
I kind of feel underdressed now that we've got an actual priest in the building.
I can't compare to this either. So.
The power of Christ compels you.
Can we all guess what his number one is, everyone?
I wonder.
So how are you guys? Season 9 on YouTube for the first time.
I can't believe it.
It's been a long road for you. And for
all
John.
of us.
I only jumped
all
on
of us
recently, but yeah, I think this is a well-deserved destination for yourself.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah.
And, well, not just for me, for everyone. This is everyone. You guys always make the show as well. I'm simply just a host.
Everybody put the work into it. But I think it's great to be here, and the future is bright.
The future's orange. That's what they used to say. But yeah, 70s horror movies, guys. Ooh. How was the list for you both? So you've only got one for this one.
Only one, yeah. So sorry to disappoint you, YouTube folks, but only one list tonight. However, it is a very well procured list.
Oh, okay, yes.
I was born in 1979, so I was not around for the majority of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry to you, John. We'll get to that in a second. It was tough because I think when you reflect on the lists, as we always do, you start picking out your favourites, and you suddenly think, well, yeah, all right, but is it a favourite? Is it just because I know that film? Yeah. It's well known because it's in the 70s.
Sure.
So, yeah, I slowly curated it a little bit, whittled it down, and I think I've got a nice little juicy set of 5.
Nice, yeah.
Nice. So let's address the elephant in the room here.
Here we go.
And, everyone can see you now, John.
Hello.
Because again, YouTube, baby.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's draw the elephant in the room here. John, why are you dressed up as a priest for this episode? For everyone to see, by the way.
Well, first episode onto YouTube, I thought, right, we're going to be able to see what we look like. It's a bit of fun. It's a bit of a laugh. At the end of the day, everybody knows. Anyone who's listened to any of our previous podcasts knows what my number one would have been and is. So, hence... me as Father Merrin from The Exorcist.
But for anyone who's joined us for the first time on YouTube, it's a bit of a dead giveaway, but hey, we're still going to go with it.
It is. I'm a big Exorcist fan, so...
Okay.
Had to be done.
Of course it did.
Spoiler. But what the heck? Anyway, for anyone who's not familiar with the show, we do a couple of questions before we do our top 5s. So let's go to a couple of questions now. So, of course, these movies are going to be reaching in their 50 years of, an anniversary now. They're like 50 years old. Do you think these movies will still hold up to this day, actually?
Oh, hell so. Yeah? Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Again, like I said just now, looking over the films that I wanted to include in this list, and I'm looking at them and I'm still thinking, oh, God, you know what? I want to watch that film again.
Yeah.
Yes.
50 years down the line, I mean, I'm nearly reaching 50 years myself, and yeah, they haven't aged a day.
No.
Some are a little bit shonky, don't get me wrong, but then a lot of horror films are, and that's part of the draw.
I was about to say that was part of their draw.
I would like to say that in another 50 years, people are still going to be watching these
I
films.
think so, because for me, obviously, like I say, we're giving away my number one anyway, but that for me, that 50 years is a drop in the ocean compared to time, really.
You lived it, John.
I've lived it, exactly. But yeah, I can easily see The Exorcist still being number one on other people's list another 50 years from now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it is an all-time classic movie.
Yeah.
And rightfully so.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2 of these movies that are in the top 5 for me are in my all-time top 10 of all time. So they will always be, hold the test of time no matter how many years old they are. So, again, if you're familiar with the show, spoiler alert. But going back to how long they were, I mean, again, Howard, we weren't there for this era of horror movies. But would you have loved to lived through or be there just to get, because even though you knew what the reaction is, would you?
Yeah, I think so. For certain movies, and I think there's possibly one on your list that specifically I would wanted to have been there for.
Yeah.
It's like when we look at films like Star Wars and big reveals and things like that. I think some of the films that we're all going to have on our list, when these films came out and people left the cinema and they were going, that was awesome for that specific reason. And to be able to just sit in the cinema and be able to live that, I think it's a nostalgia
be part
thing,
of that nostalgia.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and be able to talk about it, because at the time, there was no social media, there was no mobile phones. All we had was going to the cinema or watching something on TV and then meeting up with your friends the very next day and talking about
Chatting
it.
to your friends,
at length about these things. So be able to live it and breathe it, I think, definitely.
So would you like to live out for the first time, or would you like to travel back in time and be like sitting in the crowd going, this is going to come, let's see what everyone else is going to be like?
That's the question. To be there live when it happened at the time, yes, but I think to be a fly on the wall also, to be able to go back in time and watch other people's reactions to these, to these movies.
Exactly,
that would be awesome.
Yeah, most of the 70s would have been my teens. So
God, you are old.
yeah. So I, in a sense, I did live through some of it, but I didn't. But I don't think I've watched any of these films on my list when they come out, if you know what I mean.
But you'd be way too young.
So I was, I would have been too young. Yeah. But I obviously watched them after. So when we, so I'm more in the 80s in the sense that I lived that part of the nostalgia more than what I did in the 70s sort of thing. But I still remember people talking about some of these films and how bloody gory they are. So so now it's good fun. But going back and living it again, I'd love to be able to time travel and go back to the 70s actually and do it all again.
Yeah, it'd be good
fun. It'd be a good laugh. Just don't make.
I'd like to
just
go.
Don't meet myself.
I'd like to go just because you hear stories about those horror films back in the day. Now people fainted in the cinema or got, ambulance were waiting outside. I would just love to see if that was actually true or not.
Did they?
This is it exactly. We'll never know.
Well,
John will know anyway.
No, of course.
Well, you mean I reckon there's a bit of a slight element of truth in it, but also you've got to have, like I would say, very creative. Because it's like I was brought up in Ireland, another reason, hence the outfit. And if you wanted, it's like the Catholic Church would ban anything they thought, oh no, you can't watch that. But the youth in Ireland, myself included at that time, was a case of where anything that was banned or we were told by the priests and stuff, you can't watch that because we were all like, but why can't we watch it? I want to watch it.
Yeah. Makes you want to watch it more, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I've watched loads of stuff that was banned,
I mean, that's the ultimate marketing,
of course
isn't it?
It is.
If you can get a particular clutch of society to say you've got to stay away from that film, people are going to want to go.
Absolutely, yeah.
Exactly. If it's like what you're saying about people fainting in the cinemas, obviously that's a reference down to The Exorcist, but like I say, did people... Or was it clever marketing in the sense that put in the papers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
people are fainting.
They
could
have paid a tabloid newspaper to simply put out a story saying that people fainted.
All you need to do is a couple of towns
publicity,
around America.
Yeah,
marketing,
of course.
It gets into big news eventually. Doesn't it?
It's a very powerful thing when it comes to getting these things out.
Yeah, I mean, that's all the questions I have, really. It was very short on this one because I think we're going to go through every era from 70s till now. Yeah. So I didn't want to keep repeating myself on the other episodes that we're going to do. So if anything else, then we're just going to go straight to the top fives.
Let's go for it.
Let's do the top fives.
It's time for a top five.
Now, normally on Spooktacular, we always talk about a famous horror movie franchise. If you go back and look at the other seasons, listen to the other seasons, shall I say, they are all about like the Freddy Kruegers, the Nightmare on Elm, Friday the 13th, Halloween's, all that sort of stuff. This time, we've kind of gone a different angle, and like I said, we're talking about the decades. The reason I kind of done this is because myself and John watched these documentaries called In Search of Darkness. Yeah. And they are the meat and bone of horror documentaries. Like these are 4 to 5 hour ones, and I just love the idea that at the moment they're only focused on the 80s, but I love to go back and talk about all these other ones from other decades. So that's what we're going to do this year, and we will start with our top 5s. If we don't mention your 70s horror movie, you should have been on the episode or get your own podcast. Bollocks, yeah. Number 5.
Number 5.
Right. Normally, we roll a dice to see who goes first, and I have a brand new 20 die with a little T-Rex built inside it. Oh, no. So anyone else that actually knows who I am, I love Jurassic Park. I have a tattoo of it, as you can see, my favourite movie of all time. Yeah. So we have a little miniature dice here. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. I'll put it in front just in case. There is a little T-Rex in there. Obviously, whoever rolls the highest will go first, and we will go clockwise from there. I'll go first, shall I?
Yeah, go for it.
Go for it.
So that's a 17 to me. We'll pass that to Howard. And we'll give that a roll. So, 17 again. Right. John, can you beat a 17? Come on, here we go. Luck of the Irish. Here we go. Nope, it's a 14. So I'll roll again for me and Howard's. 6. I think Howie's going first.
I think so.
18, he does it.
Okay.
So, starting with you, sir, and we'll go clockwise. Clashes, keep it to yourself, and you can have your own 2 cents on it, because I think we will clash, folks.
Oh, maybe up near the
Off you go, sir. Number 5.
Number 5, and as we said at the top of the show, just one list this week, I'm afraid. It was a difficult choice, and I wanted to make it count, so that's why I didn't want to thin it out with 2 lists. My number 5 is a film called Deathline. From 1972.
Ooh, nice and early 70s.
Heard of it, but I don't know.
In the UK, it was known as Deathline. For the US release, it was known as Raw Meat.
Okay.
Oh, now, okay. Not as salubrious as it sounds. No. It starred Donald Pleasance as a police officer. I think there was a slight cameo from Peter Cushing, because, again, this is one of those films that I have not seen for a very long time.
Okay.
But when putting this list together, I thought, do you know what? At the time I saw it, this absolutely shitted me up.
Really? Okay.
So the premise is that 2 university students, 2 college students, a boyfriend and a girlfriend, are on the London Underground, and they're waiting for essentially the last tube of the night. They realise that there's a guy lying on one of the steps. I think it's Piccadilly. I can't remember. I'm going to have to do the research on that one. But guy lying on the steps, and they go to get help. When they bring a police officer back, because they realise that he's either been beaten up or he's poorly, he needs help, this man is gone. Don't think anything more of it. Now, they are then, it flashes forward a little bit, and then they're back in the London Underground, and basically all chaos ensues. What I like about this story is that it gives the premise that in the Victorian era, when the tubes were originally being put together, some of the workers who worked on the tube lines, the original tube lines, were subject to a cave-in.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Some of the workers were trapped in these underground tunnels, couldn't get out. Well, the offspring of these workers are now roaming the tunnels. And, they've had nothing else to feast on for the last couple of decades other than human meat. Wow. So, basically, lots of cannibalistic sort of animal-type humanoids.
Hills of Eyes in the Tunnel.
Hills of Eyes, yeah. But it was done to such a degree where... And I think I only saw this when I was about 13, 14, a late-night BBC Two jobby. It was... terrifying, and one of the beginning scenes is these creatures in a subterranean cavern feasting on human bodies, and just acting in an animalistic way, and it was so very well done, and I really enjoyed it. But it's one of those ones that I would urge you to go and see. You'll either
it's ringing bells to me. I think it's one of these ones I've seen like a long time ago, but I can't. It's sort of clicking a little bit.
I think there was a film that was done recently, and I can't remember the name of it, but there was an American film where there was this one female character, and I think she was trapped on the last tube line in New York.
All right.
Oh, gosh, what was it called? Was it called
Creep?
Was it Creep?
That's the British one. It's not an American one.
Oh no, I can't remember. But it's kind of after this, some of the subjects started coming out in films like it. But yeah, I really enjoyed it because it was one of the first films that I can remember that I chose to watch, and I walked away actually creeped out. Yeah, like totally freaked out by it because it wasn't. Being the 70s, some of the special effects aren't great. You know, there's another film.
But that's what draws you back to them, I think, today. Because I know today's technology, obviously, it's moved on leaps and bounds from the 70s. But there's something about the older special effects and like it's like you know, like Doctor Who or something with the rubber masks and stuff. And okay, today you look back and think it's obvious, isn't it? But that's part of the draw, I think, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like...
It's the magic of movie making, isn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like all of that.
Yeah, and I would still watch it today. I think, again, looking at these lists, it was one of those films I thought, do you know what, I'm going to go and watch it again. So this goes back to
I need to
your
watch
question.
it again. Yeah, it really is ringing bells, but I can't.
It sounds familiar to me as well.
If you haven't seen it, and if any of the viewers have not seen it, then I won't talk at length about it, but I urge you to go and see it because it will creep you the fuck out.
Oh.
And
challenge accepted.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So a nice little starring role for Donald Pleasance.
Oh wow, yeah.
One of my favourite actors of all time.
Yeah,
nice.
And he puts in a good turn. But yeah,
is that guy not anything bad?
I don't think so.
Just let's not go into the later Halloween films, but he still does a good job as an actor, though, isn't he? So yeah,
but he's very varied. You know, I mean, if you look back on a lot of the films that he's done, it's not like he's not stuck to one genre, shall we say?
No, he hasn't.
He's quite broad, really.
I think because of the nature of what was being put out at the time with British cinema, he did a bit of horror, didn't he, in the 70s?
Absolutely,
and the 80s. But yeah, I mean, I first saw him in The Great Escape.
Yeah,
and
of course,
he was absolutely amazing in that, and what a great actor. But yeah, Deathline, ladies and gents, highly recommended, and that is my number 5.
Nice.
Okay,
over to you, Father JK. What's your number 5?
Right. Well, first off, I've not seen any of these in a long time, but my number 5 is Phantasm.
Oh, do you know what? I knew this was going in there. I did not expect it to be a 5. I thought it was going to be higher, maybe 2 or 3. I'm very surprised by that.
I was going to put it higher.
You love this movie.
I do like Phantasm. But,
we actually during COVID, he actually come around and we just went through the whole box set one night.
I have the box set. Yeah. Again, this is a film, right? It was directed, written, photographed, and edited by the same guy, Don Coscarelli. And it's the first film of, I think it's 5, isn't it? 5 of them.
They did quite a few of them.
They're all quite good. I like them all. We watched the whole box set. The first couple, I think, are better than the later ones.
Yeah.
But generally, the first film is basically about these two guys, and you got this. He's called the Tall Man, and he's this supernatural figure. Basically, what he does, he turns the dead of Earth into like these little mini zombie slaves, and they get transported to his planet. And when you first come across him, he's in this graveyard. And this is where it kind of stuck with me because it's like this creepy guy in a graveyard. It's the usual old thing, isn't it?
The old trope.
But there's so much more to it, isn't there?
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, the bit where they're in...
The tall man, isn't it?
The tall guy, yeah. What's his name? Angus something or other. Angus Scrim. And he's been in a couple of other films. But what got me was the metal balls used to come flying around the corridors.
The only thing I knew. If anyone mentioned that movie, that's all I knew about it. I didn't know anything else at all.
Yeah, the story itself, it kind of glosses over the story in a sense because you see it to begin with. This big the tall guy, and they're trying to work out who he is, and they see him obviously bringing the dead out, and what the hell is this guy doing and stuff. And then they work out slowly what he's up to. He's basically turning them into these zombies. One of them, his brother, gets we'll say too close, and he ends up getting sent to the planet. And now their story is they're trying to get him back, so they're trying to defeat the tall guy. And he has these little metal steel balls, And that's his like defense mechanism in a sense. So if you try to attack him or whatever, these balls come whizzing round the corridors, chasing you, and these little blades come sticking out of them. And there's scenes in
drilling to your head,
drilling your
they?
head, and I mean, it's typical 70s horror, if you know what I mean. There was a lot of gore, bloody gory, in those films, and that's what I think what attracted you to it, you know.
There's a massive sci-fi element to it, even though it's like
That's
horror.
exactly what I was about to say.
Yeah.
I've got
Because
Phantasm.
part of it is off-world as well.
So I've got Phantasm on my honourable mentions.
Okay.
Just to put it out there. But yeah, what drew me in was the kind of sci-fi element, the fantastical side to it.
Yeah.
It's quite a multi-layered film.
Yes.
And I've only ever seen Phantasm once.
The first one?
The first one.
Okay.
I've never seen any of the others.
Yeah.
I know about them, I've heard about them. But but the time that I watched it, I thought, what a great film.
There's not a lot to it, but it
doesn't need to be.
But exactly,
because the premise is so.
Yes,
I
he's
hate to
very
use the word
menacing.
powerful,
He's a very menacing character.
And what a
Just his screen presence, full
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah.
a unique looking man as well. Yeah. Very.
He must have been 6'8" or something. He was a
Maybe.
huge, tall, thin man. And like you say, when you see him on screen, he kind of like exudes scariness or whatever you want to call it. Do you know what I mean? You look at him and you think, oh, shit, you know, if you saw him late at night, sort of thing, you'd run a mile.
But that type of character, and it also it kind of buys into the urban myth of like the Slender Man and things like that. Doesn't it? That type of character is always there, or the Man in Black. It's always there. So I think inherently, even if there's elements of it you don't necessarily get creeped out by or freaked out by, the tall guy, the tall man, the Slender Man, definitely. That's something I think we all inherently fear, isn't it? So.
But
Most
I
definitely.
mean, good film, well worth watching. If anyone else not seen it, give it a watch.
Yeah.
Nice pick, sir. What year was that?
79.
Wow.
I believe.
Okay, then.
79.
79.
March 79.
Nice. My number 5 is going to be the second remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Oh, okay. Right,
From
yes.
1978. So this movie has been remade 4 times. Okay. And this is the second incarnation of it. But the reason I love this movie is that I love the fact that this is the movie where, spoiler alert, the bad guys win.
Yeah.
And I just love the fact that there is, you know, you think you've got a little bit of hope through this movie where it's literally a chasing through the whole city of people being invaded and, you know, their bodies have been copied into aliens and the old ones die off as in an alien invasion. Practical effects that are superior and you know, this is post The Thing. You know, this is way before then, so they're very on par with one another. And I'm not sure if Rebel Team did it or not, but packed out cast as well. Donald Sutherland, you've got Leonard Nimoy, Jeff Goldblum, you've got Veronica Cartwright as well. And I just love that whole the whole part of the fear of, you know, we're trying to escape, but there's no hope in hell. There's no chance in hell that we can do this. We are literally outnumbered. And then towards the end, when you've got that slight little bit of hope when Veronica Cartwright goes up to Donald Sutherland's character and then he turns out that he's actually one of them and he does that horrible...
And I think that's burned into everybody's
that
memory,
ending,
isn't it?
I will never forget that ending. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe they've actually won. They're going to do it. They're going to take over. I think that is terrifying. You know, that something like that could happen one day, like a more intelligent species can overtake us just like that. I mean, look at diseases nowadays, and, you know, and how, you know, coronavirus, you know, affect us all and stuff like that. So
but also looking at something like The Last of Us, something as simple as
I was literally going to bring that up as well.
Fungus controlling our brains. I mean, it looks at something potentially real. And it just pushes it that little step further.
And I was very late into watching this because I knew of the movie. I'd seen the 90s one, which was the third remake of it, and the last one is the one with Daniel Craig and Nicole Kidman, called Invasion.
Yeah.
But then obviously when I went back and watched this one, I just thought, wow, this is like The Thing as a remake. You know, the better version of the normal one. It totally stands out. But it had a massive impact on me. Still really kind of terrifies me to this day. So it had to be on the list. So yeah, pretty much it.
Very good pick.
Let's do number 4s then.
Number 4.
To you, Howard, sir.
So, my number 4 is a film called The Night Stalker from 1972.
Nice.
It was a made-for-TV movie, but at the time was the highest I'll use the term highest grossing, highest watched, most rated film of the decade.
Oh, wow.
There is a character called Kolchak, and he's like a tabloid news reporter. So he's the one that will get sent out to any kind of low rate stories, sleazy stories. Yeah, if something is
page 3 stuff.
Basically, yeah. He's a Sun reporter, or I'd even hasten to say like the Daily Sport.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So if anything hits the tabloid, then he'll go out and investigate.
Yeah.
So basically, the premise of the film is that someone or something is killing the ladies of the night, or young women who happen to be caught out at a particular time of night. Drained of blood, left in the streets. It kind of gives you vibes of Jack the Ripper, Hammer horror, some of the old Universal
Nice
films.
stuff.
It really, really resonates for me because I love that stuff.
Yeah.
It's basically Kolchak goes out, starts investigating, and what is initially sort of palmed off by the police is as just some random killings of prostitutes. Turns out that there's something a little bit more supernatural going on. He dives a little bit deeper, discovers that there is an urban vampire.
Aha.
Now, again, being the 70s, some of the special effects is a bit shonky.
Of course,
the makeup is a little bit sideways, but I don't want to say it's got charm. I think it's got more than that. The story is very well written. The acting, especially by Darren McGavin, who is Kolchak, I think he is an excellent actor, and he sells his character very well because you don't quite like him. He's a bit of a dick.
Yeah.
But you learn to love him.
But you learn to love him. Yeah. And
I kind of like characters like that in honesty.
Yeah, definitely.
It grows on you,
I
isn't
think
it?
the anti-hero is one of these things that, and a lot of my favourite characters are anti-heroes.
Yeah.
I think because you shouldn't like them, but you do, and ultimately they come good. So throughout the course of this story, he's doing his investigation with his girlfriend, who happens to be a cool girl, so it's kind of hitting home with him. The police don't believe him. His editor doesn't believe him, but he pushes further, and he discovers that, this urban vampire who's been alive for hundreds of years is currently living in the city of Las Vegas. It kind of plays out to the normal resolution of anything like this. The vampire dies. I'm not going to sort of wash it any other way. The vampire dies, and essentially there's no evidence that this killer of the night ever existed. However, what's interesting about The Night Stalker is that it spawned another sequel called The Night Strangler.
Yes, I remember that as well.
Similar sort of play out.
But not as good.
Same story.
Oh, is it?
Different interpretation.
Okay.
And then came a TV series called Kolchak, The Night Stalker.
Yeah.
And it was gloriously camp.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit cheesy, but I love it. It's one of my most favourite TV stories out at the time. And basically, he would investigate the creature or the killer of the week. And there was some quite outlandish kind of characters that came out of it. Highly recommended. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail, apart from the fact that I think if you like your 70s horror, you will love this.
Yeah.
You will absolutely love it. So.
It's weird you saying about the TV thing, because a lot of TV shows nowadays stem from that. Like, let's go kill the monster. Look at Supernatural, for example.
Yeah. And I think it's because of
Supernatural.
series like this, Supernatural, The X-Files.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, this kind of comes from the era after the Twilight Zone, after the original Outer Limits. But
I love that.
I loved it. Yeah.
if you watch Kolchak the Night Stalker, you'll suddenly realise where the X-Files came from.
Yeah, I was going to say.
And shows like that.
Yeah.
So, highly recommended. 1972.
John, what's your number 4, sir?
Well, my number 4 is Salem's Lot. Again, you knew I was going to come up with
This
one.
was originally a TV movie as well, right?
This
is a two-parter.
It was originally, it started as a book.
Of course.
from Stephen King. And then they done it as two, like a mini, what they called a mini series at the time. There was 2 episodes, but you can get it as one film.
Yes, you can.
And I think there's 2 versions of the film.
Yeah.
One slightly longer than the other one, I think. But I don't know. It's something similar like what you said about culture and stuff. There was
vampire and vampire.
There's a vampire in it, and I love vampires. And this was probably... This is not where my love of vampires came from, because that would have been... That'll be for another episode, shall we say. But with this one, I did like the story. I'd read the book before, because I've read quite a lot of Stephen King's books. So I'd already read the book. So when the TV series would come out, I thought, I've got to watch that now, because it'll be like the book on the screen sort of thing. It's slightly different, but the story itself, it's kind of the same. It's about basically this guy, Ben Mears. He goes back to Salem's Lot, or Jerusalem's Lot, as it's actually known. After 25 years, he's had he had a bad experience with a house up on the hill. He sees a ghost. When he's a kid, it frightens the life out of him. So he eventually leaves town, goes off, grows up, does what he does. Anyway, he comes back. The idea is to write a book, and finds out that the house has been sold. And it was run down, and I think, it doesn't say, but I kind of got the impression that one of the reasons he came back to write the book was because the house was supposedly abandoned, and then he would be able to go in and look at it. But of course, when he gets back and it's been sold to this other guy, now he can't get access to this house. And at the same time, there's two brothers. I think one's found dead, two young boys. One disappears, one's found dead. And the guy who's bought the house, he's into antiques. He's got an antiques shop in the town. He's slowly getting himself known around the town. He's this strange guy, but he does antiques. He's from Europe, all this sort of thing. So anyway, long story short, he's a vampire. And he works for the master. And
I pay the master.
And so he works for the master, and he has this is where the disappearances and the murders are coming from. All the kids, he's basically taking them, and they're being given to the master. And the first boy becomes the first vampire in the village. And so Ben Mears sets out, right, well, we've got to destroy this guy. And there's a really good scene in it with when was it Carl something or other, I think is the man's name. He pays these two guys to deliver the wooden coffin to the house, and he says to them, put the coffin in the basement, here's the keys, lock the doors. Well, they keep hearing these scratching noises in the box, so they won't lock the doors. They like shit scared sort of things, so they're like, right, let's get the hell out of here. So they disappear. Well, of course, the master gets out of the box.
That scene freaks me out. When he leaves the basement, comes back, and that box is blown apart. Holy crap! Yeah, because they go up to the house. They're trying to see what the hell is going on, and they see the doors open, and of course they think, right, this is our way into the house now. And they go down the steps, and like you said, the box is in bits, and you, the viewer, having seen the box being delivered and have a really good idea of what's in the box, now when they show you the box is broken, you're like, shit, he's got out. So there's that element of scare in it, And like I said, having read the book, seen I love it all. It's. You gonna watch the new one? Oh, I will. Yeah. You got to, right? Yeah, because it's not. But it's like with the new Exorcist. I didn't watch it to see if it was better than the original. Because as far as I'm concerned, it can't be better. So you watched it I watched it because I liked the original, and I'm hoping... Fan of the franchise. Yeah, and I'm hoping it'll be as good. So with the same with this Salem's Lot, I'm hoping it'll be as good or maybe slightly under. But I don't want it to be better. Because I like my 1970s. Look at me. Yeah, I know. Look at me, teacher. That is just so creepy, isn't it? Even now when he says it, the hairs on the back of your head stand up. It's like, oh. But of course, I mean, it's Stephen King, and sometimes you can go wrong with Stephen King because they don't always adapt they don't adapt the movies as good as the content of the book is. But I think the one thing that he does very well, and he does in Salem's Lot, is that he just builds that tension to the point where it bubbles over. Yeah. My number 4 then, good choice by the way, John, is got to be the granddaddy of all that put slasher movies on the map, and that's Halloween. Of course. Now, I know Halloween isn't the first one to do it. Peeping Tom, I believe, is the first one that was a horror slasher, but this is the movie that made me love Halloween. I love Halloween more than Christmas as well. You know? But you cannot deny Halloween is a absolute classic, and it's just a horror movie or a slash movie with no blood in it whatsoever. No. It's the how John Carpenter makes that atmosphere and plays it on you. The fact that everything from this movie is iconic, from the mask, the soundtrack. To we've got star-studded characters from like Donald Pleasance. We've got the Scream Queen herself, Jeremy Lee Curtis. There's just so much. When I got into filmmaking and started doing scripts and stuff, I'd done this complete rip-off of Halloween called Trick or Treat, and it was just unreal. But it's just that's why I love horror movies. And then I kind of went off the whole slasher genre for a while until another 90s horror franchise came back and brought me back to it. But you cannot deny that this is an instant classic. Me and John love this movie. We went to go see it in the cinema when the 2018 version came out. They played the original first, then 2018 afterwards. It spawned a shitload of sequels. Some of them are good, some of them are pretty wank. But hey, you like what you like. But
this is the granddaddy of them all.
I can't deny it. John Carpenter is. The way he done it and how, he was tight on budget. And, the whole story of, how they're trying to make it like independent filmmaking and all that sort of stuff. How we got members of his crew to paint pieces of paper brown so they looked like leaves because they were filming in the summer and it was meant to be winter, obviously, with Halloween and whatnot. But what a film. And it has to go on there.
And you'd never know, only for that fact coming out. If that fact hadn't have come out, you'd have thought they were leaves in the street.
No, absolutely.
So
absolutely.
It's nothing that would have stood out.
It's the extremes that he went.
A bit of a fake leaf. Yeah. There's none of that in it.
It's the lengths these people go to get their movie made, and it's just. It's inspiring for me in a way as well.
He's a master storyteller, and I think everybody around this table loves John Carpenter for one reason or the other.
100%.
Definitely Halloween and other examples. I think it has to be on people's lists. As people are going to be and are familiar with, and myself, we love a particular franchise of Friday the 13th.
Yes.
You wouldn't get Friday the 13th without Halloween. No. You probably wouldn't even get films like Nightmare on Elm Street without Halloween because,
there's an influence there.
It is an influence, but it's a heavy influence because, like Ant said, other films were doing it at the time, but this one absolutely nailed it on the head. And the story, the acting, everything was on point.
And there's so many POV shots in Friday the 13th, the first one, where they took that from Halloween and stuff. You can tell straight away.
Heavily influenced by it.
Absolutely. So, we wouldn't have any of those without Halloween.
No.
So it has to be on there.
No.
That's my number 4. Let's go to the number 3s.
Number 3.
Howard, number 3 then, sir.
So, for my number 3, I have chosen 1978's Dawn of the Dead.
Nice.
I am a very big
I'm going to
fan.
stop you there because it's my number 3 as well. So let's join in. So let's join in on that.
When as soon as you said it, I thought it's got to be on his list somewhere.
I knew it would be. And I knew it would be.
Yes.
Zombies are a very big thing for me. I
100%.
love zombie films. You love zombie films.
Yep.
The Night of the Living Dead, I think George A. Romero, because he basically created the zombie. There wasn't the
it was the ghoul at the time or something?
It was a ghoul,
Zombie. They weren't called zombies until...
Zombies as we know them now didn't exist before that film.
No.
The word zombie comes, I think it's Haitian. It comes from that part of the world, and it's basically to do with voodoo. So, a zombie is a voodoo myth, essentially, a voodoo belief. So when these creatures in Night of the Living Dead were created by Romero, it was something new, and again tapped into people's fears of things coming back to life. I mean, it spawned the original movie. Night spawned one of my all-time favourite lines of "They're coming to get you, Barbara."
Absolutely.
I know.
As we know, that appeared in another.
Oh look, here comes one of them now.
But how could you top Night of the Living Dead? Now, the ending of that film was very, very grim.
Yes.
I think for the people that know that film, we all know how it ended. And
It's such a... Oh man, that ending is so bad.
Dark.
It's
so
not
dark.
bad, but it's like,
well, no, it's bad because you
yeah.
weren't expecting it at the time when this film was made. People were used to the hero winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Destroyed the couple go
Yes,
off into
but
the
I
sunset.
like a film where the villain wins, if you know what I mean, or the villain
Because it's unexpected.
overcomes, not necessarily wins, but he overcomes or doesn't die or whatever, because they are unnatural in a sense. Because, like you say, most people expect the good guys to win.
Yeah.
I like it when they don't.
Without ruining it too much for people who haven't seen it. I know it's been remade and people are familiar with it, but the character doesn't get out of the house alive at the end. And unfortunately, it's not the zombies that kill him.
No.
Because as we know with the majority of zombie films and TV series these days, the biggest creature, the biggest villain in any zombie flick is the human being.
Exactly.
himself.
absolutely.
It's the people in the room with you.
It's the people in the room with you. And unfortunately, the main character in Night of the Living Dead didn't make it out alive. He was shot. And it's a bit of a dark ending. So, how can you top a film like that? You introduce Dawn of the Dead.
Yes.
And it was a film that George A. Romero was not going to make. He said, how could he top it?
There's quite a big gap between Night and Dawn, isn't there?
There
Like
is.
10 years or something, isn't it?
And I think it is 10 years. Yeah, because it was 68, wasn't it?
68, 78, yeah.
And then 78. I think he was convinced by a lot of his industry friends to make the sequel to this film, and thankfully so, because this is one of my all-time favourite horror films. Set in a mall, so setting the scene, we have the outbreak has already happened. We've moved from the little country farmhouse of Night of the Living Dead. We've gone into the city, and depending on how you view it, it could be a couple of days in or a couple of weeks in. So the zombies are rife. We don't know what it is. Is it a virus? Is it what is it? Is it bacteria? We don't know. So for some reason, the dead are coming back to life. The police and the emergency services are trying to deal with it. The governments of the world are trying to deal with it. So we start off with a SWAT team raiding like a tenement block. So there's a little bit of civil unrest. They've burst into this tenement block and they're trying to basically quash some sort of lower societal uprising. Lots of exploding heads, lots of gunfire, and Tom Savini, who worked on this film.
The master himself.
He excelled himself, I think, didn't he, really, with the special effects on this one. I mean, you can look at it again. You can look at it now and think, oh, my God, it's a little bit crummy, but at the time...
But that's the draw, like I said.
It is, yeah.
But even the ghouls themselves aren't. They're just people painted in like a
They're
dark
people
green thing, and not
painted in-
like
yeah,
they're
and-
not like rotten flesh hanging off or
Well,
anything.
Savini turned around to Romero and he said, what should the zombies look like? Because all they had to go on at the time was a black and white film.
Yes.
So he just painted them dark. And I think they kind of turned out a little bit blue, a little bit green on screen. But that became a thing because by the time that Day of the Dead come around, we had the character of Bub. Bub was green and it worked. And now I think whenever we think of a zombie, we think of a green character. So, we start off with this SWAT team, and it turns out that two of the SWATs, they've had enough. They want to get out, and they basically say to each other, I've got a mate. I know where we can get out of this situation. We can just take ourselves away from all of this, because society is crumbling, society is collapsing. Then we're introduced to a news reporter and his girlfriend, who also works with Flyboy. And basically the four of them get together, hijack the news reporter helicopter, take off, and eventually find this mall. So they make their way into this mall and make it their home. I mean, there's the odd zombie.
I mean, what the perfect place to be to hide out in a situation like this.
We have said to each other, and I think probably it crosses our mind, because for those that know this podcast and know everybody sitting around this table, we all work at Gatwick Airport in various capacities.
Yeah.
And we've said one of the probably the place that we would all go if there was a zombie outbreak, we would go to Gatwick Airport because it's a self-contained facility. We could make it safe. We could stop anybody getting in. And this was the premise of the mall. Yeah. They got into the mall. They made it safe. They made it their home. Now, what I love about George A. Romero's films is that he's always got a little bit of a statement to make. He talks about society. This one is about consumerism, because weeks, months into them being at this mall, they start living a consumerist lifestyle. They get into the clothes shops, they get into the food shops. Basically, they start forgetting that there's a zombie outbreak.
Yeah, absolutely.
And and it slowly overtakes them. But one of the SWAT guys, unfortunately, whilst they're trying to get in there, he gets bitten.
Yeah.
And slowly succumbs to the virus.
Or whatever
it may be.
They still don't realise at that point.
Still don't know exactly what it is. So he succumbs, and then we suddenly realise that unfortunately, now it's eating their little society from within. I won't go into too much because, this is Ant's number 3 as well.
But I'm not going to go into the details much here, but yeah.
It's, I just think it's a great film and it's an enjoyable film. And it's one that I'd recommend everything on my list. I would do. Go and watch it because it stands up to the test of time. Yeah, the special effects are a bit shonky, but it spawned, fantastic scenes like the character in the lift, the SWAT guy that gets into the lift and then gets torn apart by the zombies.
Yeah.
That makes it into another film.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's been used to a degree in other films.
Exactly. And and I think there's a lot of scenes from this film that have made it into other things. It's influenced a lot of modern day culture. But Dawn of the Dead for many, many reasons. And I love the ending to this one because looking back at Night of the Living Dead, Romero decided that, am I going to kill him? No. I'm going to give him a little bit of a happy ending. So that's why it's my number 3, and why is it your number 3?
Why is it my number 3? How do I top that? Everything else on that one. No, it's my number 3 because I love the trilogy.
Yes.
Full stop. Well, and Land as well. After that, I wasn't a fan of it. But I never even knew much of the films themselves. So all my other ones I got to see on TV or was on video or something. These were at the time quite hard to get hold of when I was into it. But I only knew of them thanks to Simon from Bored Stupid. Hello, if you're listening, sir, or watching, shall I say. But again, we both worked in Blockbuster Video, and he was telling me about it closing the shop one night, and I'd never heard of it, and he was just like, what?
Yeah.
It's like when you say you've never seen Star Wars for the first time, right? What, you've never seen this? Funny enough, at the time, the box set had just come out on DVD. Right. Yes, DVD, folks. That was the thing, by the way. And we organised a day where we went to his house and then just sat through the whole trilogy, and my mind was just blown. This is one of those sequels that I'm gutted I never put in my top 5 sequels of all time episode, when we did it in season 3. Yeah. For years, I absolutely loved Day of the Dead. And as time goes by and I watch it more, I love Dawn. Dawn was on there for pretty much every reason you mentioned, Howard. I love, again, we're going into the charm of it. I love the dialogue to it, the story itself. I mean, it's pretty much what we would do if we were in that situation. It's a no-brainer in day. And how George A. Romero, shows it, and its dialogue is fantastic. We quote this every time, don't we? Some of the quotes in that, like, we got this, man. We got this by the ass. We say that every time. If it's like, playing a game, a board game, or doing a podcast, whatever. Absolutely love it. Its tagline is fantastic as well. It's got one of the best ones there. Quite a chilling tagline as well. I mean, if you think about it, if you believe in that sort of thing, like when there's no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth. I mean, how freaking freaky is that?
It's quite biblical, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And the fact they put it in the film as well, such a great thing. I mean, I could go into this so much. Looking at it from a filmmaker's perspective as well, because I was at college at the time making my own films and stuff as well. So getting to see how he done the practical effects with next to no money back then. I think he said something about his extras. He paid $1 a day or something, or whatever it was.
Yeah, and I think he gave them a Dawn of the Dead T-shirt and like a little lunchbox.
That's it.
But that was enough for people because they knew Night of the Living Dead and they wanted to star in this film.
Exactly. I mean, how do you get that sort of reputation for yourself? Being the filmmaker is, the independent filmmaker is, and we haven't done the episode. I've written it a while ago, but one of my favorite indie movies is Night of the Living Dead. So the way he done it, and the way he went above and beyond all the laws of filming at the time and all that sort of stuff. Again, that's why I love it. Tom Savini's makeup as well is fantastic.
Good old Tom Savini.
Yeah. So I mean, some of the gore, it was all he was basically given carte blanche by Romero in order to be able to do it. And some of them were done on the fly. He would literally create it as they were filming it, but it pulled off.
Absolutely. I mean, considering
and he became a legend.
They just normal people now with like a slight grey, sort of green tinges to them, isn't it? Sort of
so
they're not even got rotten parts falling off or anything, have they? At the time,
he kind of he went on the black and white version of the zombie that appeared in Night of the Living Dead. And so they were kind of grey. They were kind of like a dark green. But that led into Day of the Dead.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
One of my favourite creatures of all time, Bob.
Bob
was green, and now we look at zombies and we think zombies are green. It's just what we assume. But I know that you love Day of the Dead because of the villain,
Captain Rogers, mate. Captain Rhodes, sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah, some of his quotes in that are fantastic. It's so it's a classic. But yeah, for years, Day of the Dead was my thing. But now I just love Dawn so much more, man. It's just
there's
just
definitely.
something about it.
It's got a little bit more. And Day of the Dead is very claustrophobic, and I keep mentioning about that when people make these films and write these books and write these stories, they tap into people's inherent fears. I'm not claustrophobic, but when you watch Day of the Dead, because they're trapped,
because all in the underground tunnels and stuff, in caves and whatnot,
and you can feel it. You can feel the tension and the fear, and it adds to it. Again, the creatures they're in the background.
Yeah.
It's about the humans and how they're having to deal with this situation.
Yeah.
But I mean, Day of the Dead is a fantastic film. I'll give you that one.
Absolutely.
But
They're all very good. They all have their own.
Dawn definitely.
But I remember when Dawn of the Dead remake came out, and I was so worried because again, this is a remake we never ever wanted.
No.
And you know what? It's Zack Snyder's best film of all time, and honestly, it is so good.
It is one of the greatest remakes I think we've ever had.
Yes.
Definitely. And it spawned the new generation of zombie lovers and a new little series of films.
Yeah.
I was saying earlier about George A. Romero and his industry friends. Well, Dario Argento, who obviously creates Suspiria and another great European horrors. He was the one that actually said to him, he said, "You've got to make this sequel." Yeah. So he flew him out to Italy, out to his
villa,
his villa, and said, spend as much time as you want here.
Air quote.
Yeah. You're not going to be interrupted. Nobody's going to bother you. Write this film.
Yeah. You need to do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, you need to do it, and that's what gave us Dawn of the Dead.
And again, just very quickly, every film you do not need to watch the one before. They're their
don't.
own individual story.
And that's what's great.
Neither one copies either other one, whatever.
It's about a different set of characters, different situation, different reasons for why they're doing what they're doing. They're not tied to the people who are at the country farmhouse in Night of the Living Dead. It doesn't matter. No. And it doesn't matter why the zombies are rising. There's that little intricate tie about, again, I say about society, so society is dealing with it. I think that's the only thing that runs through it. Yeah. And then George A. Romero likes to tell a little underlying story throughout the whole thing. But other than that, they're standalone films, and that's what makes them so great.
Yeah. And it's a good pick, so I can't go any more into that because we got into it quite a lot. So let's have John's number 3. What is your number 3, Father JK?
My number 3 is from 1976, and it's called The Omen.
Oh, an honourable mention from me.
Yeah, top of my honourable mention list.
Now, I did like this film. I like that style of film anyway.
What is it with you and priests?
I know. I think it's having been brought up in bloody Ireland. I reckon.
Yeah, it's true.
You fear the priest more than anything. I think that's what it is.
But I liked the film. I liked the way it went on about, I liked how they, in a sense, they made the Antichrist. Yeah. Because if you watch the film, the beginning of it, they have this child, and he's now the Antichrist.
Well, they don't have this child.
No.
In theory, no.
But what I'm saying is that because basically you have an ambassador and his wife. Yeah. They're in Rome, and the wife is having a child, and the child dies in childbirth. But he gets persuaded by this priest, here, why don't you adopt this child? So this is where the
wife will never know.
The wife will never, and he doesn't tell her. But
what does he name his child, John?
Damien.
It's all for you, Damien.
Which is another bit. Yeah. So the first 5 years go by, and not a lot happens. So they're just a normal couple with a child growing up. He's 5 years old now, and the dad is now the ambassador to England.
Yep.
So they're in London now. They've got this big country house. The child is 5, and then all of a sudden, all these little things start happening. Like the
shit hits the fan, essentially, doesn't it?
To a degree, yeah, because like the Rottweiler dogs turn up, and they're like the devil dogs.
The creepy
from hell.
nanny and everything.
The creepy nanny. Like you say, the birthday party and the nanny screaming, "It's all for you!" and she hangs herself out the window.
And then freaking out when he goes to church.
Yeah,
That was me, by the way.
Yeah, he does. He goes anywhere near the church and he's like freaks the hell out. I just liked it. I think because at the time, like I said, I was living in Ireland and it was so anti the outside of my life, shall we say, because everywhere, cause like living in the countryside in Ireland, obviously, you know, my parents and everything there, and it's a very religious country. Then I'm thinking it's probably a little bit different now, but you know, you have your parish priest, and your parish priest basically tells you this is how you're supposed to live your life, and everybody around me kind of lived their life how they were told to live it. Went to church on Sundays and all that sort of thing. And then you get films like this and The Exorcist and other films come out, and the church ban them. You can't watch them. So as a child or as a kid, you know, you want to see these things. So what is it about them? And I just love again, like you say, okay, yeah, there's priests in all of them, but that's where the anti-God comes into things, you know. So whether it's a vampire or the devil or whatever, it's always like anti-good. So it's the bad and the good. So in this film, obviously, they focus on the bad.
Religion is the norm,
yes.
so therefore anything opposes
other
religion,
than that
that's.
And like I said, having grown up there, you're kind of like thinking, well, so what is it about that then that is so bad? You know, and I've always liked films, so I'm watching it thinking, actually, I like this. I like the story of it. It spawned other films. I think there's 4 other films.
There's the trilogy itself. Then there was the remake. Yeah. But have you seen the one that came out this year? The first Omen. It's so good.
Everyone says
it's on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
watch
I'll have to
it,
watch that then,
and it's the prequel to this one.
Yes,
it's not the prequel to the remake. It's the prequel to the actual the first one, and it blends so well.
Oh, good. I would watch that then,
for a film that came out in 2024. It feels like a 70s movie.
Oh, good. Okay,
it's shot fantastically.
I should watch that then.
But The Omen, again, this is a movie where you got to admit 20th Century Fox took a chance with this because 3 years before that was obviously The Exorcist.
Yeah.
And do you think people were like overburned with the whole devil thing and whatnot? But I love this story. What if the son of the devil does exist and out there, and there would be people out there that would protect him and stuff if they knew of him. Yeah. But yeah, it's just it's terrifying. Even some of the death scenes are very Final Destination sort of death scenes. Yeah.
You know, like standing under the.
But the second Doctor Who's in it, isn't he?
Yes,
he is. Yes, he is.
Mr. Patrick Troughton himself.
That's it. Yeah.
But yeah, like you say, standing under that church, and the thing comes up and spikes him. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I saw that. I was like, yes. I was like, yeah. It was like, you know,
that's what you get for leaving Doctor Who.
There's a gory death for you, you know. But yeah, no, it had to be on my list.
Good. No, honestly, it was so close to being on mine. That's why I was an honorable mention.
It was nearly my number 5.
It was the one of all the 5 on my list. It was the one film I really wanted to watch again today.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just couldn't. I just didn't get time.
Watch the first Omen instead.
I will though.
Honestly, dude,
because I've heard other people say that it's very good. Yeah. So I'm thinking, right, okay, I'll have to watch that.
Trust me, I love it.
Yeah, okay.
He'll text me with like, "You're right, that was fucking excellent. That's bloody gory."
Yeah, bloody gory. Yeah, as long as it is bloody gory, I'll be good.
Nice. Anything else on the Omen?
No,
right. So we know my number 3 was Dawn of the Dead. Let's go straight to number 2s.
Number 2.
Over to Howard then. What's your number 2, sir?
My number 2 is, again, it's a homegrown film from 1973, The Wicker Man.
Oh, you did put it in! Yeah. We were talking about this before the episode started. Hint, eh, you little sneak.
Acting.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoy this film every time I watch it. And it's, I like paganism. I like kind of...
the whole cult thing and what...
Yeah, so we call it a cult. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a British religion, really, paganism. A lot of what we now know, especially when it comes to Christmas and things like that, and Halloween. A lot of it has been born from paganism.
All came from this part of the world.
All came from this part of the world, yeah. So, Sergeant Howie, played by Edward Woodward, later on of Equalizer film, fame.
Very nice man.
He is attracted to the island of Summer Isle, an outlying Scottish island. He is there to investigate the disappearance of a young girl called Rowan. Now, this has been reported by the locals of Summer Isle. This young girl has gone missing. We need the mainland police. Sergeant Howie has been dispatched. He's a little bit green. He doesn't necessarily have his full mental stripes yet when it comes to policing, but Sergeant Howie's been dispatched.
Yeah.
We soon find out why. He's quite puritanical. He's a very, very Christian individual, and he's got his beliefs. So therefore, when he turns up on Summer Isle and he suddenly discovers that their culture, their society is based on paganism, it blows his mind. So he's still carrying out his job. He gets a room at the local inn, and he essentially goes on to discover that Rowan didn't actually die. Well,
Dun, dun, dun.
great turns from Edward Woodward, Christopher Lee as
Yes.
Lord Summer Isle.
Christopher Lee is amazing in this movie.
Well, he's the magistrate of the island. We've also got Britt Eklund as his daughter, who puts in quite a performance in one of the scenes. The scene where she's dancing around naked took 13 hours to film.
Of course.
Wow.
Why it took 13 hours to film?
I wonder why.
Yes, and she's essentially her role in the film is to kind of tempt Sergeant Howie to turn him, basically basically bring him away from the Christian belief out of the light and into the dark, into the paganism. What I like is that it shows a very deep set belief that still exists in the UK to this day, especially on little societies like this on outlying islands. But yeah, basically we find out that they have drawn in a virgin in the form of Sergeant Howie to the island because they need to sacrifice a virgin. And how do they sacrifice him? They sacrifice him in a wicker man.
Burn him.
Burn him in a wicker man. And and
His reaction in that, it's oh no! Oh Jesus Christ!
Yeah, I mean,
oh my God!
I mean,
Christ!
I think anybody would react exactly the same. So
Absolutely.
purely just for that end scene, the performance that he puts in, then mate, you feel for him because
absolutely
he cannot get out. He's about to be burned alive, and there's nothing he can do about it. And it's one of the endings to a film where, again, like Night of the Living Dead, our hero, our good man, our good character doesn't survive, and these pagans get exactly what they want. So they burn a virgin in a wicker man because they believe that under paganism, cult religion, this will help with the crops.
Yes.
Their crops are failing. This is exactly what they need to do it. But it's leading up to the point where he discovers that he's about to be sacrificed. I mean, I think there's a deleted scene that they put back in for one of the.
There's a director's cut now, isn't there?
Yeah, and I think it's the Jester. It's been a while since I've seen it, but it's the Jester. The guy who's playing the Jester or the Joker, the guy with the long nose. How he clubs him over the head. He really severely goes hammer and tongue at it, and you suddenly realise that this good man, is being deconstructed before your eyes. Yeah. He believes in what he needs to do. He finds out Rowan is alive. He's been lied to. The locals only want him there for one thing.
I think it's a massive eye opener for people that people do actually do this. Behind we drive in countryside and who knows if people are still doing this back in.
It still exists, and I think it's more prevalent in like Midwest America now. Not so much paganism, but cultural religious beliefs of that nature still exist in outlying reaches of America where society hasn't touched. They're still living in the 19th century. You know, they don't know that the rest of life. But in the UK, it still exists. And that's what I found most interesting about it. It's kind of a history lesson more than anything. But,
true.
Yeah, Edward Woodward puts in the performance of a lifetime when
he's a good actor. I like him,
and for that reason, that is my number 2.
Nice, but did you know that when you fart in the bath, you can hear Edward Woodward's name? Edward Woodward.
Jesus Christ!
Jesus Christ! No! Jesus Christ! I'm here all night, folks.
Very good.
A very nice pick, mate. I totally forgot about that movie. A mate of mine, Tim, loves that film. It's I'd be honest, I hadn't seen it in years, and then he finally got me into watching it. It's a fantastic film.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, and Christopher Lee. I mean, Christopher Lee he's quoted as this is one of his most favourite performances of all time, above everything else that he's done. He really,
and you can see why he gives it his all in this movie.
He paid his own way, essentially, paid his own wages in order to get this film made because he believed in it so much. And and you can believe it because I mean, Christopher Lee's a fantastic actor.
Of course,
anyway. We know this, but it's partially for what he did in the film. It really, really put him at
Did you know? I have met both actors.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Different times.
What, in the bath?
No. Yes. No, I've met Edward Woodward and I've met Christopher Lee. Both at Gatwick. Both very, very nice blokes.
Yeah.
Very, very, like you say, they come across on screen as they can be nice people, but there's a dark side to them as well. Like if you know what I mean. But
he's got his own. He had his own metal band or something, didn't he, Christopher Lee?
Yeah, he did at one point. I mean, when I saw Edward Woodward, it was just
Like the way he says it.
after he'd just done The Equalizer. And I liked him.
I was going to say, the original Equalizer, for people who didn't know that.
And I remembered him from being in The Wicker Man, if you know what I mean. So people at work were sort of saying, oh, there's Edward Woodward. And did you know who his wife is?
Sorry. Edward Woodward.
Edward Woodward's
Edward Woodward.
wife is Michelle Dutrice, who is Michael Crawford's wife in Some Others to Heaven. Yeah. I didn't know that.
I didn't know that. No.
I recognised her and I thought, where do I know her from? And someone else said to me, oh, you know who she is? She's blah, blah, blah. And I thought, and I knew her, but I couldn't place where I'd seen her before. So yeah.
Nice pick, mate.
Good.
Very good.
That's a good film. I do like that one.
What recent film? What film did Edward Woodward appear in? Within recent living memory.
No idea.
Remind me.
Hot Fuzz.
Oh yes, he did.
He's the man who looks for the living statue.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, of course he is. Yeah, he's part of the Neighbourhood Watch.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Very good. Right.
Good.
Let's go to Father John's number 2.
My number 2 is from 1979, like 2 other films of my list. And it is Alien.
Nice. Get in.
Of course.
Yeah, we've not long watched this film again.
The first one, yeah.
The first one, yeah. And I do that, obviously, it started off the franchise, but did it very well, I think. As much as I like horror and vampires and stuff like that, I do like space. So anything to do with space, whether anything sci-fi, so Doctor Who, Alien films, anything like that. I love anything to do with space. So when this film came out, obviously I wasn't old enough to watch it at the time. I watched it afterwards.
Was this another one banned in Ireland?
No. It's just that when it came out, I mean, we're talking I wasn't even 20. So I was 15. When it came out. So I didn't get a chance to see it in cinema straight away, but I did see it in the 80s. But it was I always found it a very believable film, if you know what I mean, because a group of guys. It's you got a spaceship, the Nostromo. It's a tug rather than a spaceship, if you know what I mean. They get called to this distress signal, and it's all believable, and that's because space is so big. If you would respond, and so they respond to this call, and they go down to the planet, and then eventually all hell breaks loose, because, like you say, anything could happen in these places. But I just love the fact that they end up getting brought back on board the ship, and they end up getting attacked and all this sort of thing. So it was one of the bigger sci-fi horror films that really stuck with me, if you know what I mean. So it was an easy pick for this list of 5.
Yeah.
But I liked all the actors in it. I liked the story. I like it's just one of those films that kind of sticks in your brain. So when we said a while back we were going to do 70's,
you knew this was going to go on the list straight away.
This has got to be in the list straight away, So I literally had the list done within an hour or two of us saying we were going to do it. Really
nice.
I've moved a couple of them around a little bit, but that's always stayed.
You kept it in there though.
Stayed as number 2. So.
What could be number 1?
I wonder. Yes.
But Alien, what a franchise.
Yes.
Absolutely.
We did a recent commentary corner where we watched Jaws, and I think I raised the point that Alien I mean, it's a fantastic film and it's right.
Yes.
But it is Jaws in space.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Because they take that same theme of the unseen creature.
Yes.
It could get you at any
Yeah,
point.
absolutely.
Just replace
You
the
don't
ocean.
see it for ages.
Yeah, exactly. And that's always, I think, what makes these films so great. You don't see the creature until the very end.
You don't need to.
You don't need to. But if you just replace the ocean with space, and you've got Alien.
Yeah.
And, it is absolutely fantastic. I'm going to say now it's an honourable mention for me. I didn't put it on a list. And I'll tell you why. It's an obvious choice. Because I love it, you love it, you love it. I think everybody loves it, and I knew one of you was going to pick it.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I thought, it is on everybody's list, but it's the reason I didn't choose it because for that very reason. But
Yeah, so it's like when I put the list together, my number one and my number two, like I say, they stayed the same. And I had a couple of others, and I thought, do I, don't I? And I thought, well, no, because like you said, the number one and number two I couldn't change because everybody knows that.
Yeah, of
my
course,
number one, my number.
Rightfully so.
If I suddenly turn around and said to you, my number one was something else, you'd all think, what?
Yeah.
How many?
That would be freaking awesome, though.
How many seasons have we done? And all of a sudden, I've changed my number one. So it had to stay there. But I was thinking, what other films could I put in the list that maybe no one else would have? Because the last thing you want, you don't mind the odd clash, but you don't. I mean, the last thing I want to do is put 5 films up there and clash all 5 with you guys. Do you know what I mean? So that was kind of why I picked The Omen out of other films and stuff. You know,
great pick on the Omen.
Pick, mate.
and like I said, I did change one film, but only because it wasn't until I was going through it all that I realised it was actually 1980. So it's going to be in.
Yep, doesn't count till next week's
week's
episode.
It'll be in the next list. So
Nice.
Alien.
Very good pick,
Number
sir.
2.
My number 2. Now, this is a movie that I never really thought to be a horror film, especially growing up with it as a kid, because it has a PG rating.
Oh, okay.
And again, we got to see this in the cinema, and it wasn't. I didn't see it. Sorry, cinema. It used to be on BBC One all the time, and it wasn't until we done the first ever top 5 favorite horror movies of all time in season 1 of M.T.V.B. that we realised kind of is a horror film, but is also a monster movie at the same time.
Right.
1975's Jaws.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
So
We talked at
we
length about
literally
this,
just
didn't
said
we?
it. So it was like,
Action horror in a sense, isn't
Yeah.
it?
But I never thought of it like. I mean,
It's multi-layered.
Yes,
It's got
exactly.
everything.
Yeah,
this is the film that defines why I wouldn't go in the sea.
You said
You and me both, mate.
Yes,
Yeah,
mate. It's like what you say. I'll never go in a natural.
Natural body of water.
Yeah,
No.
me
And it's
neither.
because of that
Ever.
bloody shark.
Yeah, ever. And it still terrifies people to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, how could you not put this in there? I mean, and then it's just, it's a natural animal doing what it does. It's not like it's out for revenge until number 4.
yeah.
And then, and how Steven Spielberg shot it, like through the production he done and the nightmare of the production he had to go through, how it kept breaking down, how it got replaced with all the barrels and stuff and whatnot. It makes you use your imagination to what that shark is doing or what could be potentially doing at the time. And I could not put this on here.
It's so iconic, and for anybody who has listened to it, and if you haven't listened to it, please go and listen to the commentary corner we do on
Exactly, I was about to say that. Yeah,
I mean, we tell the whole story, and it's facts galore. But it makes my list of top 5s of all time,
and it still terrifies me today.
for that
honestly.
very reason. Yeah. And I joked about the fact I will not set foot in a natural body of water, folks. If I can't see to the bottom of that
There's still nightmares of it. Like, do you remember the deep end of a pool?
Yeah.
And there's like a shark in there or something. I hated going in the deep end as a kid. I really did.
I mean, I can't swim, and I never learnt to swim.
I could swim,
but you know, I think that might have been part of the reasons because of Jaws. You're thinking, oh, I don't want to go in the water, and I never do.
Steven Spielberg did his job.
It's an effort to paddle for me. Do you know what I mean?
That must be one of the most horrifying ways to die, is being eaten by a shark that size.
We saw it. I mean, we talked about it with Quint, the character of Quint. So, in the film, midway, he talks about during the war when he was stuck in the water in the Indonesian Ocean, and he saw his
USS
Indianapolis, and he saw his crewmates get chomped
in half
by a shark, and then ultimately that's how he meets his fate. That's his ultimate fear. I think it's everybody's ultimate fear, isn't it? You set foot in the ocean, that's what's going to happen to you, folks. You're going to get eaten by a great white shark.
And if you say you're not scared of that, BS to you. It's absolute BS.
Exactly.
How that would not terrify anyone, I have no idea. So, yeah, I won't go into too much detail because we mentioned it on Commentary Corner. So please go back and listen to that. And I can't really say much more of it, really.
No.
So we'll go straight to number ones. Let's bring it home, guys.
It's number one.
Bring it home, sir. What's the number one?
Halloween.
Oh, is it? Hey!
Nice.
Slasher films are horror for me. There's several layers of horror. It's bloody gory. You're absolutely right, John. Yes. Several layers of horror. John, you go for more of like the religious supernatural sort of thing. I think. And you potentially lean towards like the monster creature sort of aspect of it.
Yeah.
For me, it's
slasher.
It's the boogeyman.
Yeah.
And who?
Oh, of course, I forgot to say he was
embodies the boogeyman, and Michael Myers himself.
Yeah.
Jason Voorhees is my character. He's my go-to character because I love Friday the 13th. But again, and I say this quite a lot, we would not get Friday the 13th without Halloween and John Carpenter's genius. And you said earlier about the many aspects that make up this film and why it should be on everyone's list. From the mask, the shape, the character of the shape, Michael Myers, Laurie Strode, who is one of the most iconic characters of all time, Jamie Lee Curtis. I fell in love with Jamie Lee Curtis for two reasons: this film and that particular scene in Trading Places. What else can I say about Halloween?
Not True Lies? Damn.
Oh my God. True Lies.
Come on, you got to, yeah?
Oh, yeah, I know. I think we talked about that, didn't we?
Yeah. But anyway.
Moving on. The Mask. I mean, Star Trek is one of my most all-time favourite series, and I love William Shatner. He is a Hollywood grandfather for me. But, the fact that they used this Halloween mask of Captain Kirk, turned it inside out, painted it white, whatever they did to it. But, that
what a clever... And where did they get the idea for that
Where did they get the idea from it? I think, it's born like Jaws and Steven Spielberg. John Carpenter possibly looked at it and he thought, how can we make this work? Some fucker turned it inside out or painted it white, whatever they did, and it worked. The camera angles, the shots, the storytelling, the suspense, even from the setup at the beginning with the mini Michael Myers killing his sister, and then leading up to the scene in the asylum where he makes his escape, and this creature, this form of Michael Myers, just scampering across Donald Pleasance's car. Again, Donald Pleasance, folks, one of the greatest actors of all time. I could go on and on and on and on. You've already talked about it. We've done a.
But I wanted to bring up. You mentioned the boogeyman side of it. I completely forgot to mention it. Now I love the fact that we never really know why he does what he does, and when the way Donald Pleasance talks about him, like he has the blackest eyes, he has the devil's eyes, it just gives you that he is the boogeyman. There is no rhyme, no reason, there's no motive,
he
no
says
nothing.
It himself. Some people are just pure evil.
Yeah, and then when you've got the Tommy character who's not really, he sort of gets into Halloween in this movie, then finds out about the legend of the boogeyman. We've all gone through a phase where we've had a boogeyman, but Michael Myers was his, and I just love how he sees him in that movie. Like there's a shot where Tommy looks out and you see Michael carrying a body into a house. How creepy is that?
I mean, absolutely.
Holy shit.
Yeah, and it's a corner of your eye sort of thing, really. But then the look on his face, and you just think, well, I think we've all had that image in our head, or we've seen something out the corner of our eye. It's just a flash of something. Did I see what I just saw?
Well, it's like in Salem's Lot, when very similar scene where he sees the guy carrying the coffin. And you think, well, hang on a minute. How is it you need six people to carry it? This bloke's able to pick it up and walk off with it.
Yeah, and it's
a
that moment
similar
of
thing. You're like, what
it?
the hell? And it's just Ooh.
Did I see what I just saw?
Yeah.
So, again, it ties into the whole urban legends of the boogeyman. The boogeyman comes in various forms. It comes in the form of the tall guy, the tall man, the slender man, whether it's Michael Myers. Mm-hmm. A lot of the themes that we've been talking about tonight with these horror films are all urban myths and inherent fears of the human trait. And Halloween, for me, when I first saw it, because I saw Friday the 13th before I saw Halloween. I love Friday the 13th. I do. Jason is my man. But when I watched Halloween, I just think it's the superior film. It is. And John Carpenter, I
love John Carpenter.
I think I could go through John Carpenter's whole back catalogue and probably say that I love every single one of the films that nearly every single one of the films he's put out. But
there's one or two.
I think we can think one or two, mate.
There's one or two.
I'm reaching there a little
bit.
They're
good, but they're not as good as other ones that he's done. So he's always. I think all of his films are good, just that some are better than.
Well, I think this
That's
was his absolute pinnacle. Halloween,
yes,
brilliant, absolutely brilliant, and that is why it's my number one.
I didn't see that coming. Very good choice, sir. On the other hand, we kind of know what's coming on this one, don't we?
Right, we do.
What's the number one, sir?
Oh, hang on. Well, let's go with The Exorcist.
I so wanted him to say something else.
that
would have been so good. You've gone through all that effort to dress up.
And then I'd come up with a different one. No, honestly, I wouldn't do that. It's The Exorcist. I mean, we've already done...
No brainer. We've done a commentary corner as well.
So I'm not going to go on about the film itself. But the thing is, it did help to spawn lots of other films. It's like... it's the first film Warner Brothers done where they actually made a sequel.
Oh, right, okay.
Because they weren't going to do it. They don't know. Studios didn't normally at that time do a second film or anything like that. They do one and that's it. They move on to another film. But this was the first one because the reviews and everything were fairly good and they made enough money, shall we say, from the first one that they quickly decided let's do another one. So it was one of the first ones to do that. Plus, then as you move on through the decades with other films, there are these subtle little references that go back to it. Again, William Friedkin wrote a really, really good story there. Blatty wrote the story, and he wanted Friedkin to do it. Friedkin didn't really want to do it, to be honest with you. I think it took him a little bit of persuading. But he did a pretty good job on it. I think the two of them, they clashed on some parts of it. But overall, I think it's a pretty good film. Like I said, I think it's my upbringing. It's always been there, and then it's stayed there. There's nothing so far that's actually knocked it off the list, sort of thing. Be interesting to see if something else does.
And we mentioned on the commentary corner that William Friedkin doesn't actually class it as a horror, does he?
No.
So, but a lot of people do. Like Reagan's an iconic horror character and stuff.
It's like one of these. Like I think he classes it as one of these suspenseful, like psychological kind of films.
Psychological belief in if you do believe or not, isn't it? Something like that. He was saying, wasn't it?
But it's horror.
It's unnerving.
Yes.
It's very unnerving.
And then in that respect, then anything unnerving like that will have a horror element to it because it's how do you? How would everybody? I think would interpret horror in a different way. But for me, a horror is a film that kind of like it. You've got an element of scared. I mean, if you watch a film and you're scared of a part of it or a character in it, well, there's an element of horror there, then, isn't there?
Yeah, there is.
So
and horror is always born from something that we've experienced or something that we live with. It's always born from a very real fear of something. If you tap into that, and you've got people. So, like yourself, John, you grew up in Ireland, very religious backgrounds, and that's why you gravitate. So
anti-religion.
Yeah.
I'm not anti-religion myself, by the way. It's just...
You heard it here first.
Well, no shit. I mean,
it's like take it to the other extreme, shall we say. As much as I like The Exorcist and its imagery and its portrayal of it, I love Father Ted. I think Father Ted is one of the funniest shows on TV, and again, it's about a priest in Ireland. Yep. But again, they took the humorous side, and we'll say they took the religious type and they turned it on its head. It's like a mockery. It's like when I grew up in Ireland, nobody really cared what the young people, shall we say, didn't really care what the priest wanted you to do. Nobody cared. Your mum and dad did, and your grandparents did, but as kids, we were growing up, really? And so Father Ted taps into that part of it for me. So when I watch Father Ted, I remember myself as a kid kind of like thumbing my nose up to the local priest, and I was like, no, I'll do what I want to do, sort of thing, you know what I mean? And then whereas The Exorcist takes that to the other extreme where that scares me, that bit, you know? Because it's like, as much as I like vampires, as I always said before, the very, very, very first vampire film I ever watched scared me so much that when I went to bed, I pulled the bedclothes right up to my chin because I was afraid something was going to come in the window and bite my neck. But that stuck with me. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's why I like horror and vampires and that sort of thing. I love horror films so much because it's that element of scaredness. You know, it scares you to the point where it kind of makes you feel alive. And at my age, that's good. You know, I have to be reminded that I'm still alive every now and again, yeah.
And on that bombshell.
So number one is The Exorcist, believe it or not, yeah. You'd never have known from the get-up, would you?
I had no idea, mate.
None of us did.
It comes as a complete surprise.
Complete shock and surprise.
But having said that, my number one, everyone knows what my number one is. Yeah. Alien, of course, from 1979. Yeah. Another clash there. Yeah. The movie that personifies my two favourite genres and blends them together and makes a masterpiece. This is my second favourite movie of all time. And I think it's the scariest movie of all time as well. And simply for the fact that if he was in the same situation as Ripley at the end of that movie, when you're all alone in that ship with a creature and you're not scared, bollocks you. You are shitting your pants as much as I would. Yeah. But for the movie itself, this is the one where from the start of it, you know you're in for a scare ride. You know,
that's why I didn't say too much about it because I was pretty sure.
Ridley Scott's chilling opening with just the titles coming up line by line, and then when it comes up and Jerry Goldsmith's score hits and just gives you that sort of feel to you, and it just oh my god, it's just
it puts you on edge before the film even starts,
and it doesn't stop from there. Even with like just seeing the characters, you feel like there's some sort of unnerving sort of situation that's going to happen next, and then when you find the derelict ship, then you see the face hugger, and it just doesn't stop from start to finish. We mentioned about a question earlier on when I said if there was a movie you'd love to go back to and see people's reaction to. Yeah, if I had a time machine, the first thing I would do is go back to 1979, go see Alien, and I will watch people's reaction on that chestburster scene.
Do you know what's very interesting? Right, so there's a photo that floats about social media, and when you look on certain movie sites and things like that, and this photo appears. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's people's reaction to Alien in 1979 in the cinema. The majority, I think it's the chestburster scene. I think it's the John Hurt scene. I can't quite remember, but. The majority of people in this photo, in this cinema, are literally, they're giving an actual reaction. There's a bloke sitting just behind them. He's laughing his tits off.
But the actors didn't know that scene was going to happen, did they?
And this is what I love about that film, because those actors are literally reliving the same experiences. I guarantee anyone in that cinema.
Exactly.
Because when the chestburster happens, obviously there's a little spurt first, and then they scream, and then they stop. And then they move, and then it moves, and like something else is going to happen. And as that's happening, I can just picture everyone going something, and again, when it finally bursts out, it's silent again, and then you've got the heartbeat in the background just to what.
I reckon there was a few screams.
I'm telling you now, I'm telling people either puked, passed out, whatever, and I would just love to be there to see that. But for me, that movie is the be-all, end-all horror film, and the fact that it's in the 70s and still holds up to this day, I can't deny it, man. It's just the whole thing with sci-fi is the fear of the unknown. We haven't explored space. There might even be something like that out there. We never know. We may never know, but who knows?
Well, recently, astronauts have been reporting that when they went up into space, they were seeing snakes floating about in space.
Yeah, fuck that.
I mean, if that's true, who's to say that there isn't something?
So Jaws is the reason why I won't go in water. Alien's the reason why I won't go in space. Because if I go there, no one's going to hear me scream. No. So
Dear
Alien has to be number one. And everyone who follows the show knew that was going to be number one. But people that are on YouTube, that's got to be it. But some good Pigsties. Not as many clashes as I thought there was going to be.
No. I wasn't sure about Dawn of the Dead because I know that you were.
I'm very surprised you put that. I didn't know you was going to. I didn't know you were that much of a lover of it. But but the same with Halloween. I didn't think you were that fan of Halloween.
I knew you were going to do Alien. I didn't know you were going to do Halloween. And I was pretty sure one of you would have the Wicker Man. So
yeah.
No,
I think we talked about that before, didn't we?
But are there any other honourable mentions?
I've got a few, but if
I don't think I've got any now because I think
I've only got one, which
I had two,
which was The Omen and Texas Chainsaw, which I'm surprised never made the list. So
I have a problem with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't actually like it.
Okay.
I like it, but I didn't want to put it on my list simply because as much as I like, thing is, technically, this 70s list could have been very difficult for me to do because there was to be at least 20, maybe 30 films I could have put, but you kind of have to start thinking, well, do I like this film better than that one? And so I was kind of in that mind.
Hence the list.
And I was going, because I was kind of drawn to Texas Chainsaw Massacre because we've not long done that on a commentary corner. And so I was kind of thinking, do I or don't I? And then I kind of think, well, I saw The Omen and I thought, oh, hang on a minute now, I do like The Omen. So I've kind of, it's like, I've got to kind of put that on
That's
there.
how I approach this list as well, John, because, again, 70s, I mean, I was born in 1979, I saw 6 months of it, you know. So looking back, I thought, what are the films that I actually like from that era? And that's why I chose the ones that I did. But Texas Chainsaw Massacre, for me, unfortunately, I find it boring because it's just like an hour and a half of women running around screaming. It bored me.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Controversial, I know.
But
this is the thing. See,
there's so many haters in the comments right now. You know,
you see, the 70s. I was 6 to 16. That was my age group there in the whole of the 70s. So I didn't go to the cinema and see any of these at the time.
Sure,
I did go and see them in the 80s. But again, we're going to be doing 80s.
We'll talk about that next week. So don't do it yet.
Exactly. So it's like. But having seen them at some other point anyway, I would love to, it's like we said before, I would actually like to go back and see. It's like I'd love to see their reaction to The Exorcist from the original 1973. I'd love to time travel and go back and to see. But did people really freak out as much as they kind of make out they did? You know?
Who knows?
Exactly. Who knows?
So what's the list, mate?
For my honourable mentions, I have The Omen.
Yep.
Nice.
I've got Don't Look Now, which is a Donald Sutherland film.
Yep.
Yeah, with the creepy little dwarf.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever the creature was in the red coat.
The walking Zelda from Terrorhawks.
Yes. That really.
Yeah.
Carrie had to be on the list.
Carrie, yes.
Carrie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Yes.
Jewel.
Yeah.
Consider it a horror. Don't consider it a horror. I think it falls into the category of unnerving. Because a creature comes to life in the form of a truck.
It was going to be. It would have been in my top 10 had we been doing top 10.
Okay, all right, interesting.
We've never done top 10.
I know. That's what I mean. That's why it didn't make my top 5. But.
This is in no particular order. The Exorcist obviously had to be there. I've got a film called The Creeping Flesh.
I've heard of it, but
it's a Peter Cushing film, and it's about the discovery of a body part that slowly starts rebuilding itself. I'll leave it at that. Watch it; it's very, very good. Mm-hmm. Phantasm, Phantasm's on that. The Crazies.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
George Romero,
The Crazies.
Did you like the remake of that? Because I did.
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Asylum. Now, this is kind of a horror Hammer-esque type anthology film from the 70s. Very, very good. And it tells several stories that eventually end up culminating in one eventual story at the end. Hills Have Eyes.
Yes.
Yeah, we did mention that slightly.
Yeah, a Trilogy of Terror. Does anybody know that? It's another anthology film. Right, I won't spoil it. Watch it. It's cheesy and great all at the same time.
Right, that's good.
Salem's Lot.
Yes.
Yep.
The Fury.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, do you know The Fury?
Yes.
Okay. And Demon's Seed.
Yes, I strangely remember that and all.
So this ties in kind of to your religious, demonic child theme that runs
Omen-esque,
a little bit. But that's. I could go on.
No, that's fair enough, mate.
I usually do.
I don't know how you couldn't have made 2 lists out, but hey, it's fine.
But what would the theme be?
No, this is it. This is true. I'm intrigued what the 80s one will be.
Oh,
see.
Yes.
So that's it. The end of the episode. I think to our viewers, if we didn't mention any of your 70s movies, please comment below.
Yes, do.
Let us know because we would like to know.
This is going to
and why they're on there as well.
Yeah.
This is going to be brutal. You know that.
Yes.
Don't you?
And give us
I'd rather be
ideas
brutal.
for Commentary Corner.
But that's what it's there for.
Yeah,
we need to get feedback from the fans.
It starts debate, and it gives you guys and girls the opportunity to be able to tell us.
Interact, please.
What do you want to see? What do you want us to talk about? I mean, look, this is Anthony's show at the end of the day, but
we're the guests.
You are going
He's
to
the
build
master.
on this. You're going to tell us exactly what you want and us to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
Or if you've got
comment.
ideas for episodes or anything, please just, again, put them all down there.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you like we listen to, please like, comment, share,
And
subscribe. Subscribe would be a long way going for us. If you could just hit that click button for us.
It's free, don't cost anything.
Yeah, we've got 8 other seasons on the episode, on the channel as well, haven't we? So,
Yep.
there's plenty on there to listen to or watch now. But yeah, if you like we listen to, follow us. We're everywhere on Facebook at the M.T.V.B Podcast. We're on Instagram at M.T.V.B Podcast. TikTok, M.T.V.B Podcast 197. Spotify as well.
Yes.
iTunes. And of course, now YouTube.
Yeah, and you know the address because you're watching it right now.
Yes.
Exactly. So we'll leave it there, guys. Thank you to Howard, Father John, and myself, the host Antman. This is all of us signing off, and we'll see you next week for the 80s. Goodbye.
Bye.